Hey everybody, this is William Surf Riles of TB Customs, representing TB Customs Airbrushing Graphic Studio, located at 1427 West 111th Street. And I welcome you guys again to a short mini broadcast of TB Customs series, one of the very few shows that speak from an artistic perspective for artists, by artists. We represent the preservation of airbrush art, airbrush skills from the real airbrush artists. I'm Surf, I'm your humble servant. Before I close it down for tonight, I want to talk about a subject that's real dear to me, and that is the decline of airbrush art, as well as the decline of airbrush art studios. And what happened? Well, what happened to a lot of the places that have opened up over the years is that they've closed down. One of the reasons why they have closed down is because no one wants airbrush work. Why don't they want good airbrush work? It's because the airbrush work that they're getting really isn't that good. I know that's a cold statement, but hear me out. When you think about airbrushing, do you think about $1,000 jobs? Or do you think about you paying $1,000 for that? Do you think about just little characters like Mickey Mouse or Betty Boop, or maybe a name or a heart on a t-shirt? Well, if that's what you think about when you see airbrushing, then yeah, that's probably the reason why no one wants to get airbrush work anymore. Airbrush work has expanded in many different mediums, but if those who are represented only stay at a certain level, then the people that's looking for more won't look for it. They'll look for it in another medium. When airbrushing first came out, you had a ton of guys out here getting down, and most of them were good. Some were mediocre, and I'm not going to say that was the greatest, but I hung in there. A lot of the artists were so selfish that they refused to teach people, in which they had good reason, because some of these guys were just snakes, and they took people's ideas and they used to get a couple of quick dollars. Most of those guys are bums today. Then you had the guys that really mastered their craft and was making some huge dollars that moved into other industries. And though they still loved the trade, they left it alone because those who were gods in the art field didn't consider what we did as real art, because we weren't doing it by hand. And then, of course, those who were getting airbrush stuff, they were just getting mediocre stuff. They figured, why am I paying all this money for this mediocre stuff that's going to wash off? As you probably heard in my last episode. You new school artists that got lucky and made a couple of dollars, here's what I know about this field. You're either going to adapt, improve your skills, or you're going to fall off like a lot of guys who I've known falling off because they were only looking for the money. They weren't doing this for the lifestyle. When you see a graffiti artist that's been in the game for so long, and they've gone through thousands of cans, and they have perfected colors and learned different color schemes, they don't just walk away from it because the money isn't there. They do this for a lifestyle. Okay? If you've been in this as long as I've been into 26 years, you're not just doing this for the money. There's many a nights when I don't want to go home. I want to sit here. I want to create. I want to do something new. That's the essence of being an airbrush artist. And you young guys, though I was young just like you got to start realizing that there are people that laid foundations for you so that you can have it better. Don't disrespect them by telling people, oh, we're better than them. This is what I've suffered. Again, I said this is going to be a realistic show, so I'm going to give you all a piece of my heart. I've had situations where I've gotten so close to doing good what I do and was totally cock-blocked, and I'm going to say that word as it is, by people who are not even airbrush artists, but they're just so quick to jump into something that they don't care who they interfere with. Thankfully, by the grace of the higher power, I'm still doing this. But I've seen some really bad work. And I had to learn that from one of the best artists in the airbrush field in Chicago, known as C1. I'm not going to say his real name because I don't think he wants to say that name publicly. But those who grew up in this industry like I did, they know what I'm talking about. He owned stores. He knew how to run them. He ran them until he just couldn't do it anymore. And he actually helped me improve my game. I can honestly say that he improved my game 10 years ahead of myself by allowing me to see the mistakes that I was making. When you become an artist, you're always striving to perfect yourself. You young guys that see the money and see a way to make money, there's nothing wrong with that. Make your money, but stay professional, because you never know who's looking at your work. You never know who's out here doing bad work and misrepresenting what we do. Anytime a person trusts you with their items, know that it could make you and it could break you at the same time. Always think ahead before you do a job. I don't care if it's a name, if it's a little big heart. Always take caution and pride in what you're doing. And no matter how hard times are, you'll always be working. There are a lot of snakes in this game. There are a lot of guys who are out here, and the only thing that they're looking for is to find out what you're doing and to figure out how to get in your pockets. And they'll always be around. You can bet on that. Be aware of the snakes. Be aware of the users. But at the same time, always keep a professional standard. The quality of the work has gone down so low that I couldn't blame a person for saying, I don't want any airbrush. When people come to my store and they see what I do, I change minds. That's the power of what I do, and the influence that those who came before me gave others. I have pieces right now that people don't even realize is airbrush. It's because of the quality and the time I put into it. Another thing is that you have to know your value. And sometimes knowing that means that you might go plenty of days without a dime. When that money comes in, if you get the price you ask for, it's worth it. Here in Chicago, there's a lot of snakes in this business. There's a lot of crazy people, and I'm going to speak on one group of people, photographers. I've done some work for some famous people, and those photographers talked a good game about putting me on, and I'm still sitting here waiting for them to put me on. And I had to remove myself from some of those guys because I just realized that I'm not going to get what I deserve from them. So thankfully, I've been able to do other pieces and other jobs. But at the same time, I realized that if I was going to get serious in this business, thanks to a couple of friends of mine that really told me, if this is what you want to do it right or don't do it at all, and get your price. When I started doing that, I actually started seeing better work and better pay. But I know a lot of people right now that overcharge and do some very, very ugly work. And it makes us look bad, and customers don't want to deal with us anymore. Let me tell you a story before I go offline. I did a job, it's like about maybe, I'm going to say about almost 20 years ago, for a client. I did an image on his Jeep. He had asked me if I could do his Corvette. And I was excited to do the job. As I began to work on this process, I had a paint system that I used. And I used it when I was in Florida. Never failed, never let me down. I applied the same process to this vehicle. Now, I wasn't aware about certain paint concepts, paint materials, and I always do a practice run before I do a job. The customer was in so much of a rush to get this job done that I didn't have time to do a practice run on the material to see how it would hold up. Needless to say, I spent 9 hours on this job, from 6 o'clock in the afternoon to about 3 o'clock in the morning. And when I completed the job was beautiful. But because of the fact of the process of how they put the paint on that car before I painted the mural, the paint came all the way off as soon as they clear coated. For some of you guys that paint, you all know how this goes. You already kind of get an idea how this goes. 17, 18 years later, I've never had that problem again. That was because I understood the steps and I stayed on my own work policy. Practice run before we do anything. Especially when you're dealing with new people and the people that they deal with. Had it been my complete project, that would have never happened. But because I entrusted someone else, I lost business because the faith value of my work was in question because of what happened that night on that Corvette. Many young artists fail to realize those lessons. And now in Chicago, this industry is so secular and so segregated that if you're making some money, you really have to have a stronghold on what you have. Artists shouldn't be like that towards other artists. We're in a field where we are in need. And sometimes the only time when we're needed is when somebody needs us. There's really not a lot of respect in this business. So I'm saying this to you guys right now. You airbrush artists, you old guys as well as the new guys. I'm an old school guy now. Learn how to work together. If you don't network, you don't work. Stop trying to say that you're better than this person. Stop with the egos, because nobody really cares whether or not you're eating or you're dying until they need you. Okay? And I'm not trying to be the bad guy with this, but I'm being honest. As artists, we are the necessity. And it's time that we start getting together and realizing we are the ones that are needed. We are the ones that make people's lives better. We're the ones that help people when they need ideas and we put it to light. We need to start maximizing on that principle. Otherwise, there won't be an industry for us, and the good old computer and the guys that are doing the computer work is going to take up all of our work and all of our time and all of our money. Well, I'm about to close it down for the night, people. This is just a little recorded clip. You all enjoy it. If you feel anything about what I said, you can agree or disagree. Leave your comments in the inbox. Again, you can email us at t.bcustoms@yahoo.com. Check out our mini clips. Everybody, I love y'all. Appreciate you all listening. Just getting some thoughts off my mind before I go in. We're almost at 15 minutes. I'll catch you guys tomorrow when we start working on some new projects. Hope you all will check us out. Peace.